Hello everyone. So now as we have completed one chapter of the biology, and that is chapter number 6, that was the life process. So now today we are moving on to the new chapter, and that is chapter number 7, the control and coordination. Control and coordination. As we have seen that what are the basic fundamentals of a life process, or for what we need to be alive, that is nutrition, respiration and excretion. We saw what was nutrition. We intake of food to survive and to have an energy to do work was food, and that phenomena is also known as nutrition. Okay, and to break down these food particles into smaller particles, we need to have an exchange of gas, and for the exchange of gas we need to respire, and that process is known as respiration. During this whole process of nutrition and respiration, many harmful substances are created that need to be removed out from the body, and the removal of this process is known as excretion. Okay, so now we are all familiar with this. Today we are going to the chapter of control and coordination. Now, what is the meaning of control and coordination? We all know, we think, fine, whenever we need to eat, our stomach sends a message to the brain that we are hungry. Whenever our legs are paining, we think we need to sit. This is said to be the coordination, where the brain sends the message transfer in the form of electrical impulses to the body that now we are tired. This is a common example of control and coordination. Okay, let us read from the first line for the same thing. In the previous chapter, we looked at life process involved in the maintenance functions in living organisms. We had started with a notion we all have, that is, something is alive. Yes, we saw what is alive. Anything that can eat food, can respire, can move, can think, as well as can do reproduction and finally leads to death, is known as a live thing. But some of these movements are in fact the result of growth, as in plants. A seed germinates and grows. We can see that the seedlings move over to the course of days. It pushes soil aside and comes out. But if its growth were to be stopped, these movements would not have happened. We have seen many things which are not connected with a growth, such as the example given over here are a cat is running. Now we cannot say that if the cat is running, that means there is a growth over there. A children playing on swings, that also does not show that either there is a growth in the child or not. Okay, so how do we associate such visible movements with life? A possible answer is that we think of movement as a response to a change in the environment of an organism. Okay, a possible answer is we think of a movement as a response to a change in the environment of the organisms. The cat may be running because it has seen a mouse. We also think of a movement as an attempt by living organisms to use changes in the environment to their advantage. Children try to get pleasure and fun out of swinging. When bright light is focused on our eyes, or when we touch a hot object, we detect the change and respond to it within movement to order to protect ourselves. Are you getting my point? Whenever a bright light, as we saw in chapter number 11, that whenever the bright light is entering our eyes, fine, then pupil is controlling the amount of light entering into us, and what we are doing, we are closing our eyes just to protect our eye lens from the bright light. The same thing when we are touching a hot cup of tea, we take our hand back just to protect our skin from burning. So these are the controlling and the coordination. Okay. If we think a bit more about this, it becomes apparent that all this movement in response to the environment is carefully controlled. Each kind of a change in the environment evokes an appropriate movement in response. Fine, each and everything has to change due to environment, because in the environment we know we need to change with the seasons, with the days, and the regular time intervals. So when we want to talk to our friends in a class, we whisper because we know that we cannot shout loudly while the lecture is going on. So this is also a form of control that is also known as discipline. Okay, the discipline is a type of a brain sensor which maintains the posture and the balance of the humans. The movement to be made depends on the event that is triggering it. Therefore, such controlled movement must be connected to the recognition of various events in the environment, followed by only correct movement in response. In other words, living organisms must use systems providing control and coordination. Okay, living organisms must use system providing control and coordinations, and thus in this chapter we are going to study the human brain, the nervous systems, as well as the reflex actions and many more types of the control and coordinations of human beings, animals, as well as plants, through which we are maintaining, controlling and coordinating with the environment, or we are adaptive to the environment. Okay. So, in keeping with the general principles of the body organization, in multicellular organisms, specialized tissues are used to provide this control and coordination system. So, the first topic what we are going to start today is the animal nervous system. The animal nervous system is one of the most important topic of this chapter. It is also said to be a central nervous system, CNS. It is also said to be a central nervous system, CNS. Okay. In animals, such control and coordination are provided by nervous and muscular tissues. Touching a hot object is an urgent and dangerous situation for us. We need to detect it and to respond it. How do we detect that we are touching a hot object? All information from our environment is detected by the specialized tips of some nervous cells. Okay, see students, over here figure number A, they have given us the structure of neuron, also known as nervous system or nerve cell. Okay, in examinations if they are asking us to write a short note on central nervous system, we need to draw this figure. You only need to draw the figure A and not the B, as it is not that important. It is just a neuromuscular junction showing us how it works. So we need to draw the structure of neuron. Okay, fine. See, over here in the structure we can see that there is a cell body. Now the main cell body consists of dendrites. Now these dendrites will gain the information from the whole part of the human body according to the changes in the environment, and then thus help us to send the message to the brain. Okay. So what happens? This is a cell body, and in cell body there is a nucleus. Now you know that the nucleus is always the central part of the cell, and this is a nerve cell itself, but it is not in a regular spherical shape. Okay, so that is a nucleus, that is the central part of the cell. It is a cell body, and which is connected and which is starting or connected with the dendrites. Okay, so now what happens? There is an axon. These axons are actually the charge carriers for the dendrites. They takes the information from the brain and went on to the other parts to send to the brain. Okay, so these are the axons. Axons are also said to be a charge carriers. Axons are also said to be the charge carriers because they carry on information from the dendrites to cell body, and from cell body or to axon, and axons to the nerve endings, where these nerve endings are connected to the brain for the direct message to the human body. Okay, students, I hope you are clear with the neuron cell or the cell neurons, because it is very important to us. It consists of a cell body, the nucleus, dendrite, axon, and the nerve endings. Fine. So what we need to see is, let us read. All information from our environment is detected by the specialized tips of some nerve cells. These receptors are usually located in our sense organs, such as the inner ears, the nose, the tongue, and so on. These are also said to be the sensory organs, what we have learned in the lower standards. Fine, ear through which we can hear, nose and smell, tongue taste, and so on. So this, whenever we are seeing something with our eyes, we get a message. Who are they? Are they stranger to us or are they know each other? Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Let us start. These receptors are usually located in our sense organs such as inner ears, the nose, the tongues, and so on. So, gustatory receptors will detect taste. Fine. Please note there, students, that the gustatory receptors will detect taste. Gustatory receptors will detect taste, while the olfactory receptors will detect smell. Okay, the gustatory receptors will detect taste. Please note that the receptors which detect taste are also known as gustatory receptors, while the while the organs or the functions which detect the smell are also known as olfactory receptors. This we have also seen in chapter number 2, that was known as olfactory indicators, which was used to determine the taste. Okay, yes, determine the change in order. That the change in order stands for the change in smell. Change in smell. So gustatory receptors will detect taste, while the olfactory receptors will detect smell. This information acquired at the end of the dendritic tip of a nerve cell sets off a chemical reaction. Okay. So what happens over here, as we are having a cell body and the dendrites, at the dendritic tip, we get the information acquired. Which will set off a chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse. This impulse travels from the dendrites to the travels from the dendrite to the cell body and then along to the axon to its end. As I explained you earlier, fine, this is the working mechanism of the cell. It is the nucleus in between. Dendrites will acquire the information passing from dendrites to the cell body. The body will go to the axon. The message will go to the axon. Now as the body of cell is connected to the axon, axon will take on to the information and go and send it to the nerve endings. Okay, let us read again. This impulse travels from the dendrites to the cell body and then along the axon to its end. At the end of the axon, the electrical impulses sets off the release of some chemicals. These chemicals cross the gap or synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in a dendrite of the next neuron. Okay, these chemicals cross the gap or synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in a dendrite of the next neuron. This is a general scheme of how the nervous impulse travels in a body. A similar synapse finally allows delivery of such impulses from neurons to other cells such as muscles or gland. I hope you are clear with this. This is the working of the neuron cells. If anything you want to write, the second paragraph of from this information to the cells or the gland, it is the most important one. So you need to go that. Please don't avoid that paragraph if there is a short note on structure of neuron. There is a short note on structure of neuron. Fine. So one more time I am repeating that this is the general scheme of how a nervous impulses travel in the body. A similar synapse finally allows delivery of such impulses from neurons to other cells such as muscle cells or gland. It is thus no surprise that nervous tissue is made up of an organized network of nerve cells or neurons. It is thus no surprise that nervous tissue is made up of an organized network of nerve cells or neurons and is specialized for conducting information via electrical impulses from one part of the body to another. Okay, and is specialized for conducting information via electrical impulses from one part of the body to the another. Fine. So there are main three parts of the neuron where the information is acquired. So the first thing of what is the first function of the neuron, that is where the information is acquired, where the information is acquired. Then the second thing is through which information travel as an electrical impulse, through which information travel as an electrical impulse. And the third one is where this impulse must be converted into a chemical signal for onward transmission, where this impulse must be converted into a chemical signal for onward transmission. I hope students you are clear with this. The three identify the parts of a neurons. First thing is identify the parts of the neurons. In that where the information is acquired, through which information travels as in, so where the information is acquired, the first thing, now I am telling you the answer. The first thing is dendrite, where the information is acquired, so that is dendrites. Through which information travel as an electrical impulse, it is known as axon, it is known as axon. And the third is where this impulse must be converted into a chemical signal for onward transmission, it is also known as nerve endings, it is also known as nerve endings. So first answer is dendritic tips or dendrites, the second one is axon, and the third one is nerve endings. Third one is nerve endings. Is there a difference in how? Okay, let us go on to the next paragraph. Is there a difference in how sugar and food taste if your nose is blocked? If so, why might this be happening? Okay, that we need to have the possible explanations of these kinds of differences. Do you come across a similar situation when you have a cold? Yes, whenever we are having a cold, a viral infection or a fever, what happens? We do not get the perfect taste due to the blocked nose, due to the blocked nose. Okay. Next, what happens in a reflex action, and that we need to learn. Okay, what happens in a reflex action? Now what is reflex thing? Anything that can be done frequently, fast, in a more similar way is known as reflex thing. It is known as a reflex thing. Okay. Because anything that can be do fast in a more easily way and in a short interval of time is known as reflex action. Let us read over here what does it mean by a reflex action. Reflex is a word we use very commonly when we talk about some sudden actions. Fine, reflex stands for some sudden actions in response to something in the environment. We say I jumped out of the way of the bus reflexly, or I pulled my hand back from the flame reflexly. I was so hungry my mouth started watering reflexly. So these are the words where there is a sudden action of time. Okay, running after the bus, taking hand from the flame, okay, or jump from the bus, etc. are the sudden actions, and so we can add the words like reflexly. Okay. So let us consider this further. Take one of our examples. Touching a flame is an urgent and a dangerous situation for us, or in fact for any animal. Fine, because we can burn our skin. So we need to respond it. One seemingly simple way is to think consciously about the pain and the possibilities of getting burnt. Okay, we need to think consciously about the pain and the possibility of getting burnt, and therefore move our hand, and therefore we need to move our hand back. An important question then is, how long will it take us to think all of this? The answer depends on how we think. If nerve impulses are sent around the way we have talked about earlier, then thinking is also likely to involve the creation of such impulses. Thinking is a complex activity, so it is bound to involve a complicated interactions of many nerve impulses from neurons. Okay, because neurons need a time to message transfer, then it will gain the message and then it will give the output. So neuron message transfer as well as the muscle transfers will take time, whereas these won't take time. Okay. So in this case, it is no surprise that the thinking tissue in our body consists of a dense network of intricately arranged neurons. It sits in the forward end of the skull and receives signal from all over the body, which it thinks about before responding to them. Fine, as our human beings in thinking tissues are very dense network intricately arranged neurons, so it will take a time to end the message transfer system or to respond them. So in order to receive this signal, this thinking part of the brain in the skull must be connected to nerves coming from various parts of the body. Similarly, if this part of the brain is to instruct muscles to move, nerves must carry this signal back to the different part of the body. If all of this is to be done when we touch an object, it may take a time for us to get burned. Fine, so if we are leaving this on our brain, that our brain will think and respond whether to take our hand or not, at the same similar time, we will burn our hands. We will burn our hands. So, how does the design of the body solve this problem? How does the design of the body solve this problem? Rather than having to think about the sensation of heat, if the nerves that detect heat were to be connected to the nerves that moves muscle in a simple way, the process of detecting the signal or input and responding to it by an output action might be completed quickly. Such a connection is known as reflex arc. You students, please note this thing. It is quite important. They have given us the definition of reflex arc, also known as reflex action. Okay. So from where you will write, see, if the nerves to detect heat were to connected to the nerves that muscles in a simple way, the process of detecting, you need to write from the process of detecting the signal or the input and responding to it by an output action might be completed quickly, and such a connection is known as reflex arc. Fine. The process through which we are detecting the signal of the input or the output without interventions of the brain is known as reflex arc. It is known as reflex arc. Okay. I hope you boys have cleared this thing. If you have any doubt, you please let us know. Okay. Fine. Where should the reflex arc connections be made between the input nerve and the output nerve? The best place, of course, would be at the point where they first meet each other. Nerves from all over the body meet in a bundle in the spinal cord on their way to the brain. Reflex arcs are formed in the spinal cord itself, although the information input also goes on to reach the brain. So I hope you are clear with this, students. Nerves from all over the body meet in a bundle in the spinal cord on their way to the brain. Reflex arcs are formed in this spinal cord itself, although the information input also goes on to reach the brain. Of course, reflex arcs have evolved in animals because the thinking process of brain is not fast. The thinking process of brain is not fast enough. In fact, many animals have little or none of the complex neuron network needed for thinking. So they are considered to be the animals having basic level of thinking. They are considered to be a basic level of thinking, that they will be only, say for example, take a stray dog or a pet dog. They will be only thinking about his owner, the food, the eat and the sleep. Okay, and they won't have innovative mind or an inventing mind that they will create something like we human beings can do. Okay. So reflex arcs, so it is quite likely that the reflex arcs have evolved as efficiently Of course, reflex arcs have evolved in animals because the thinking process of brain is not fast enough. In fact, many animals have little or none of the complex neuron network needed for thinking. So it is quite likely that the reflex arc have evolved as efficiently ways of functioning in the absence of true thought processes. However, even after complex neuron networks have come into existence, reflex arcs continue to be the more efficient for quick responses. Okay, so you need to remember this also for the MCQ as well as 1 mark question, that even after the neuron network, reflex arcs are said to be the more efficient for quick responses. They are said to be the more efficient for quick responses. Okay. Fine. See over here, they have given us the figure about the reflex arc. Okay, they have given us the figure about the reflex arc. You can see over here that the hand of a human being is going to touch the cup of a hot tea, and he will experience the heat or pain. Once he will experience the heat or pain, the effector muscle in the arm will snatch the hand. The effector muscle in the arm will snatch the hand, and thus the sensory neurons or the motor neurons will drive it and immediately send the message to the brain, and the relay neurons will work. So it won't send the message to the brain, but before that only at the relay neuron it will snatch away the hand. It will snatch away the hand. Fine students, I hope you are clear with this if you are not having any doubts. So this is the common form of reflex action. You should know what is the reflex action. Okay, the process of detecting the signal or input and responding to it by an output action might be completed quickly, and such a connection is also known as reflex arc. Okay, they are more faster than the neuron networks of the brain. The reflex arc is also known as the reflex action of the human body. Okay. Later, first what we discussed was the structure of neuron. The structure of neuron consists of a cell body, the dendrites, nucleus, axon, and the nerve endings. You should know the last three and identify the parts of a neuron where information is acquired. They are always acquired at the dendritic tip. They are always acquired at the dendritic tip, through which the information travel as an electrical impulse. They always travel through the axon. They always travel through the axon. And last, where this impulse must be converted into a chemical signal or onward transmission at the nerve endings. At the nerve endings, impulse must be converted into a chemical signal for onward transmission. For onward transmission. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. Students, you need to go for the structure of neurons. You need to draw the structure of neurons, as well as you need to write the whole short note of the neurons. As I told you, the second paragraph of this page, that is from the information acquired at the end of the dendritic tip till the muscle cells or the gland, will be the function of the neurons. In exams, if they are asking, you need to write the whole nervous system. Okay, we also saw that what are the causes of growth and what are not the causes of growth. Fine, I hope you are clear with this chapter. We will continue it from tomorrow. Thank you.